What's the reason why you stopped helping people? Once upon a time, I was the kind of person who would help anyone who asked for it. It didn't matter if you were down on your luck, hungry, or just needed a few bucks for a meal, I'd try to lend a hand. It felt good to be that person who could make a difference, even if it was just a small one. I'd hand out a couple of dollars here and there, maybe grab an extra sandwich or a warm coffee for someone sitting on the sidewalk with a sign. It wasn't about feeling superior or showing off, it was just a simple act of kindness. The world can be tough, and if I could make someone's day a bit better, why not? But, things changed over time. Life happened, and I started noticing some patterns. I'd see the same folks in different parts of town, telling the same sob stories. It got me thinking, are they really in need, or is this a script they're running to get a few bucks? Then there were those who'd turned down food but asked for cash. That felt a bit off. I mean, if you're hungry, wouldn't you take a sandwich? It started to feel like some people were taking advantage of the kindness, using the sympathy card to make a quick buck. There was this one time at the grocery store that really threw me for a loop. I was minding my own business, cruising the aisles, tossing in the usual suspects like bread and milk. I was about to check out when this woman and little girl came up to me. The little girl, with big pleading eyes, told me a story that hit me right in the gut. They said they were having a tough time, that the dad was abusive, and they needed help getting groceries. I hadn't faced this kind of situation much before, and to be honest, I felt bad for them. No one should have to go through abuse, especially not a little kid. So, without thinking too much, I agreed to help them out with some groceries. The little girl looked genuinely happy, and the mom looked grateful. But as we started shopping, things got a bit weird. Instead of going for the basics, like rice and beans, they started pulling out some fancy stuff. I'm talking high-quality meats, the kind that puts a dent in your wallet. Then they added in all sorts of unnecessary stuff like ice cream and candy. It wasn't the kind of grocery list that screamed struggling family. Back then, I guess you could call me a bit too non-confrontational. When the mother and daughter approached me at the grocery store, telling a heartbreaking story about abuse, I couldn't bring myself to say no. So, we started loading up the cart with all sorts of things, some of which felt a bit over the top. As we approached the checkout, I started feeling uneasy. I mean, the whole cart was filled with fancy items, and I had this sinking feeling that I was in too deep. But, being the non-confrontational person that I was, I didn't want to make a scene or tell them I wasn't okay with buying all this stuff. As we got closer to the cashier, I noticed her giving me this look. It was hard to describe, but it felt like she was trying to communicate with me telepathically. If looks could talk, hers would have said, "You're getting played." It was this weird mix of sympathy and knowing, as if she had seen this movie before. I started feeling even more uncomfortable. I turned to the mother and young girl and said, "I'm sorry, but I can't buy the sweets, like the ice cream and candy. We need to stick to the essentials." The young girl's eyes welled up, and before I knew it, she started crying. It hit me hard, seeing a child in tears. But the woman's response took me by surprise. She began pleading, "Please, we really need that." It was as if the ice cream and candy were some lifeline they couldn't live without. My instincts told me something was off. We had already filled the cart with steaks and other high-end items, and now the focus was on the extra treats. It really didn't make any sense to me. I wanted to explain that you wouldn't need stuff like that if you were really struggling, but the crying of the little girl made me apprehensive to speak up. Then, a voice came from behind, the cashier. I've seen that same mother-daughter pairing begging people for groceries 3 times already this month. This is the 4th time. After that, there was silence in the air for a couple of seconds. It was like a puzzle piece falling into place. The indescribable look, the sense of déjà vu in the cashier's eyes, the pieces of the story started to connect. The woman's pleading, the girl's tears, the steaks and the unnecessary treats. It was a script they had been running, preying on the kindness of strangers multiple times a month. The little girl, who had been crying just moments ago, almost miraculously ceased her tears. The mother, caught in the act, was left speechless. They just stood there in silence, waiting to see my response. I must have had an extreme look of disgust on my face because as soon as I started removing their items, the mom started dragging her and her daughter towards the exit. As they were leaving, the mom just looked back the entire time while shouting at me, "You heartless bleep, you're going to burn in hell for this. We're going to starve because of you. A truly good person would help us out." I was just speechless the entire time until they finished exiting the store. Then, the cashier started to apologize to me for having gone through whatever just happened, and that she was going to talk with the manager after she finished checking out my items to get the mother-daughter duo banned from the store. I thanked her and went back home after that. From that day on, I became a bit more cautious. I didn't want to let one bad experience taint my willingness to help, but I also didn't want to be a pushover.